Over on the YouTube channel Subjectively, Magic Jack Art, or Jack Burke, has done a whole series of turning Pokemon into sets of armor, which is a series that directly inspired my own series of turning various things into fantasy armor. And so today, for my second episode in my Pokemon Grand Prix, where I'm doing 3 different Pokemon videos on 3 Monday videos in a row, I've decided to finally do my own take on Pokemon fantasy armors. Plus, it's something that's been suggested by a bunch of my subscribers before, but most specifically by Shay the Shark. I'll also link in the description Subjectively's whole playlist of Pokemon armors. You might want to go check that out. Also give me ideas in the comments for what you want from the 3rd episode of my Pokemon Grand Prix, but for now, fantasy armors. Let's go!
Hit like if you want, subscribe if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show.
Hey Vasilia, I didn't know you was here today. Oh, that's a good looking Amma. Is that Heath in there?
You bet, Benny. Just giving my new suit a test drive. Fits great, Vasilia.
Did you ever doubt that it would, Heath? As you know, Benjamin, when Heath uses his abilities, a common side effect is that he causes strange weather patterns to occur around him, including lightning to strike. This suit is intended to help him more consciously conduct electricity whenever he so chooses.
Hey, that's a good idea. I always thought it would be cool for you to get more out of that lightning power of yours. Maybe you could even give yourself a new superhero name, like Black Lightning, or Static Shock, Storm, or Electro, or Aqualad. The Aqualad? Why Aqualad?
Oh wait, I'm just thinking of a list of black superheroes with electric powers Champ was telling me about. Never mind, Heath Hurricane Reynolds has a good ring to it anyway. So was this armor made from some kind of dragon in your world, silly? It was not, no. Though there are many electric dragons and creatures I could have crafted this armor from, but was actually partially made from the hide of gigantic monster Heath slayed in his own world.
Yeah, it was this big old kaiju called Buzzvolt, and the thing was constantly shooting electricity off itself. Every other kaiju slayer was having a real hard time getting close to the thing, even ones in the giant mech armors you made for us, Benny. They were just getting too zapped up to function properly. So finally I got called in, and the electricity off this thing was just charging me up even more. Gave me the idea to bring parts of its hide to Vasilia after I slayed the thing, so she could make me an armor out of it.
Was honestly quite simple armor to build, barely needed any magic to bring out the creature's former abilities and allow Heath to use them. Now he can use armor to absorb electricity and store it for later use. Absorbing electricity could potentially even allow him to use his regular abilities for longer periods of time.
Gotta be careful wearing this thing in modern worlds though. I walked too close to an outlet a few minutes ago, and the suit automatically started sucking electricity right out of the wall. Could probably cause some power outages pretty easy in this thing.
Still though, that does sound like a pretty sweet upgrade power-wise. What kind of favors did you have to do for your girlfriend here to get her to build this for you, huh, Heath?
Well...
Actually, Benjamin, we have not told people this yet, but Heath and I are no longer in a romantic relationship.
Oh, what, for real? Yeah, but it was a mutual decision, no hard feelings on either end.
Yes, as it turns out, a relationship can only last so long when the only thing 2 people have in common, really, is that they are both incredibly confident and attractive.
So you 2 called it quits, huh? Well, if I'm gonna be totally honest, I kinda often forgot that you 2 was actually dating in the first place. No offense.
You know, I was supposed to just be coming here to grab some snacks, then getting back to Dresden, who was telling me about some weird toilet monsters that I'm still convinced he might have been making up. But, you know what, he can wait. Now I kinda just wanna hear about more of the armors that you done built lately, silly. What else you been making? Well, actually, I have recently had excuse to practice building water-based armor once again, something I very much enjoy doing, for women with very fitting name for such a suit, Marine.
This chick honestly looked almost exactly like Vasilia, but pale and with blue hair instead of red.
Heath is correct, she was almost as attractive as myself, and had beautiful singing voice. Others in her shoreside village had often referred to her as a siren, because she would sit on rocks near water and practice her singing, often attracting passing ships.
Hey, I used to do something like that when I was a kid, except instead of passing ships, it was older kids on bikes, and instead of singing on a rock, I would pop out from behind some garbage cans and just scream at them. They'd fall off their bikes, then I'd try and run away before they could catch me and beat me up.
Good times.
Yeah, Benny, that sounds like the exact same thing.
Anyway, Marine's village has been having problems with aquatic creatures coming near their shores and consuming all the fish that her people used to catch for food. To ward them off, she needed an armor that would allow her to face undersea creatures on their own terrain, and a member of her village was familiar with my work, so sent her in my direction. She came to me and was my favorite kind of client. One who needs armor that is practical for combat purposes, but is also equally as interested in having armor that accents their physical features.
You like building armors for smoking hot people that makes them look even more smoking hot? I get that.
Indeed, and this time I had a new technique I wanted to try for aquatic armor. If you recall, I have told you previously that I have been visiting another dimension that is like my own but with even more magical beasts and beings. Well, there I acquired the hide of a magical jellyfish creature and was able to use that to create magical lining for around the neck and upper chest of this armor. That allows the wearer to breathe underwater. I also added large reinforced shells to forearms that can double as shields against whatever creature she may come up against.
Oh, talking about that, did you ever tell Benny about that one armor you finished recently that was basically just made out of a bunch of shields for that Kommo-o dragon riding guy?
Ah, I have not, but we can do that next. To conclude on this suit, I made much of her armor out of scales of sea monster hides I had from previous armors I'd made, and gave her rounded short swords that was nothing flashy but would do the job. Now, as she walks through her village to the waters, everyone she passes cannot help but stare at her beauty elevated by her Kuznet original armor.
And was she able to kill the monsters that came to her village's waters?
I do not know. Once I confirmed that all the residents of her village were in awe of her looks in my suit, that was when I stopped seeking updates. The armor that Heath was referring to, that looks somewhat as though it was made from shields, was one I built for man traveling to mainland, his journey having started in Hawaii. He had traveled across other regions of the world, and was first being I have ever seen to have tamed a dire Kommo-o dragon, which he rode as his mount. These creatures are very hostile, not one many would risk attempting to ride.
Hey, I actually sorta did that same thing once too. Is this gonna be like the Screaming at Bikers story where it's barely similar at all? This one is more similar, cause I actually did ride a Kommo-o dragon once, very briefly. That's why I'm banned from all the zoos in New Jersey now. But to be fair to me, they didn't have any signs anywhere that made it clear it was not a petting zoo. Didn't turn out so good for me though anyway, it's cause of that day that now my big toe on my left foot is mechanical. That lizard's mouth was a lot faster than I thought.
I was not aware you had mechanical toe. Does this toe have any abilities like the arm you built for Dr. Champagne?
Nah, I tried putting a rocket booster in it once, but trying to fly balancing on one toe is not as easy as it sounds.
That does not sound easy at all, Benjamin.
You know, I forgot that when you guys talk about armors, you barely end up talking about the armors at all.
Oh yes, the armor. Man was very brave warrior who wanted armor for his hunt of mythical creature called a Mo-o. His Hawaiian legendary shape-shifting lizard gecko thing that I don't believe has ever been confirmed as real, but this man claims to have seen one with his own eyes. He stated it was his intent to travel the world for a year, honing his skills and preparing, then returning to Hawaii to slay the beast. And he specifically requested armor that would not be quiet. He wanted his opponents to hear him coming, as he was very confident in his fighting prowess.
Wow, well that sounds like your kind of guy, silly. Sorry, Heath, too soon? It's all good, Benny. I actually said the same thing to her.
Yes, he was confident and attractive, but did not take enough pride in his appearance for my liking. Before I put the Kuznet original armor on him, he was essentially wearing dirty, stained rags.
Oh yeah, that sounds more like my kind of guy. So how did you make a not quiet armor for him? You glue a bunch of parrots to it or something?
I did not, no. I simply made armor from overlapping platings that would rattle like snake when he ran or shook vigorously enough. Even gave him large battle axe that he could clang against armor to make loud noise to alert others of his presence and threaten his prey with it. The armor also obviously made him look like much more impressive physical specimen, though in final fitting he was only concerned with the practical elements of the armor, did not even mention how it looked.
Well, how did it look?
How do you think, Benjamin? It was made by a Kuznet, it looked beautiful.
It is kind of a bummer when the client doesn't acknowledge how nice looking an armor is. I know I've made some mech armors for some pretty ungrateful folks in the past too. Not most people, but you know, it happens sometimes. Well, yeah, I can see why that'd be annoying, but isn't the fun of making cool stuff for a living enough of a reward on its own?
Well, yeah, sure, but I can enjoy making cool stuff while still wanting to be showered with praises for how cool the stuff is that I make. Finish us off with a story of a client who was grateful, Vasilia. Well, one client I created armor for recently did not seem like one who would normally be abundantly appreciative, but she did turn out to be. She was a warrior who shared some resemblance to a favorite client of mine from the past, in the sense that she had mighty legs able to kick a full-grown man to death with one blow to the head. She could also run faster than almost any human I have seen, unaided by magic in my world, but was somewhat lacking in upper body strength department.
Yeah, that's a common problem for sure. Folks like to talk about how lots of guys will skip leg day, but I know a lot of women who will also skip every day but leg day to get a rockin' gluteus caboteus, if you know what I mean. I definitely do know what you mean, but you're never gonna hear me complaining about that.
Yes, well, who needs exercise when you can compensate with a beautiful suit of armor? This client needed to be able to run quickly and readily use her legs, but also wanted ample protection on upper body and arms. Also requested a sword of some variety that was light and very nimble and also as aerodynamic as possible.
Ain't most swords pretty aerodynamic?
Have you not seen the sword I made for friend Caitlin? Turn this blade sideways and it may as well be a door. Anyhow, I suggested to woman that I give her a rapier, the most aerodynamic blade possible, and she agreed it was a good idea. With blade so thin and light, she could quickly run up behind opponents and impale them before they even noticed her coming.
Oh, wait a sec, is this the one where you realized later that you'd made an armor for this gal's brother a few years back?
Very good memory, Heath, yes. Partway through the build, she inquired as to whether I could add any features that would allow the armor to deflect electricity. I said this was possible, and when asked why she wanted this, she admitted that I had made armor for her brother, who now lives in another region of our world, and his armor gave him the ability to conduct electricity. Somewhat like the suit I've built for Heath, though my materials and magic were less impressive at the time. This woman wanted to be able to challenge her brother in combat, so I added feathers that would draw in and dissipate any electrical charges directed her way. Feathers used from the very dragons that I built her brother's suit from in the first place.
Oh, building suits for two people who's gonna go up against each other. Who are you, me?
I suppose is similar to things you have done in your shady past, Benjamin, but she was not some kind of supervillain as you have built armors for. She was simply a warrior who wanted to challenge opponents stronger than herself.
Sure, whatever you say, silly. I'll let that one go since you and Testosterone Tommy here just broke up.
We are both fine, Benjamin. As we said, our separation was amicable.
Alright, if you say so. Just watch out, cause the second Astra finds out that both of you is single, she's gonna be foaming at the mouth anytime she's around either of yous. Yeah, you're probably right about that, but honestly that's not that different from how she usually acts around us.
If you enjoyed this episode, you might want to check out the first episode of my Pokemon Grand Prix, turning Pokemon into aliens. Or if you want more of my Fantasy Armor episodes, you might like my famous video game characters as Fantasy Armors. And again, give me more Pokemon suggestions, either Pokemon I could use in another episode like this, or other Pokemon video ideas. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave people with today is a quote I read from a man named Greg Braden, who said that the ego says when everything falls into place, I'll be at peace. The spirit says, Find your peace, and everything will fall into place. When you can find a sense of inner calm even in difficult situations, that'll make it much easier for you to get to a place in your external world where everything's at peace as well. I hope that's inspiring, I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next video on Friday. Goodbye!